and welcome to Great Getaways. There are places in Michigan where the past doesn't just sit in history books, it runs right alongside you. Up here in Big Bay, the stories run deep. From the lumber camps that build this town to the quiet shoreline of Lake Superior, where every bay seems to hold a secret of its own. Today we're heading off the beaten path, climbing onto ATVs in the wild beauty of the Huron Mountains, stopping along the way at places you'd never expect, like a factory that turned into a home, and meeting a photographer who spent a lifetime capturing one of Michigan's most elusive giants, the moose. A journey through history, wilderness, and moments you just can't plan, and it's all here in Big Bay.
Today's expedition takes us once again to Marquette County, Michigan's largest county, with over 1.2 million acres of beckoning land and over 100 miles of Lake Superior shoreline. Lake Superior is one of the biggest factors in the area's climate. The lake keeps winters warmer and summers cooler for those lucky enough to live nearby. Of course, during the winter, it is the lake effect snows which often inundate this part of the UP with hundreds of inches of snow. Today, however, it is the lake's summer effects we'll be feeling. The mean temperature for July is a comfortable 70 degrees. The prosperity of Marquette County has been built on its natural resources. Iron ore, timber, and the big lake were a strong triangle. These days, the natural riches continue to power an important industry, tourism. The vast woodlands and waterways draw outdoor enthusiasts from all over for hiking, camping, fishing, hunting, boating, and kayaking. Marquette is the county's largest city and home to countless attractions and recreational opportunities. Our show today, however, will be taking us off the beaten track just a ways. Approximately 30 miles northwest of Marquette at the end of County Road 550 is a little diamond in the rough, a small village with a big history. We have visited here on snowmobiles before, and we've stopped by in the summer before too, but we've never dedicated an entire program to the area around the village of Big Bay. As you watch, we think you'll agree, this is a show long overdue. The Big Bay area was homesteaded in the late 1800s. Its real beginnings can be traced to a lumber camp and milling site begun in 1900. As families joined their lumberjacks, a small town grew around the operations, and by 1904, a petition was granted to officially recognize the town in a new township. Through the first half of the 20th century, Big Bay's fortunes grew and shrank with the successes of its sawmills. At one time, the town was considered one of the most bustling in the area, with its mills, docks, railroad station, and spurs. As many as 130 families populated the surroundings. The lumber helped the country's expansion efforts to the west, as well as the war efforts overseas. From his many visits to the area's famous Huron Mountain Club, Henry Ford knew of Big Bay and utilized its lumber production in his automobile manufacturing. He had watched the little town go through its many periods of struggle and prosperity. Ford eventually became so fond of the area that he purchased practically the entire town in 1943 and infused his own money for the many upgrades needed to pull the town out of the Depression. The stories of Ford's philanthropy to the residents of Big Bay are numerous, and the village prospered like never before while he was there. One of Henry Ford's biggest additions was the creation of the Big Bay Hotel. A reconstructed general store, the hotel served as a retreat and meeting center for Ford executives. In 1959, the hotel was featured in the movie Anatomy of a Murder, but it soon fell into disrepair. Recently, it has been reborn as an elegantly appointed hotel, complete with conference and meeting facilities much like the original. The new hotel has taken the name Thunder Bay Inn, its fictional name from the movie. On this bright day, Tom and Denny drove the 30-some miles north from Marquette to the historic village of Big Bay. Here, they would begin the day's trek through the North Woods and along the beaches that comprise the bay areas of Big Bay. They met up with outfitter Jeff Tonique. Where else but at the Thunder Bay Inn.
We're here at the Thunder Bay Inn, and I think today we're going to be leaving this canoe in the van set right here. It's pretty windy out right now. Instead, we're going out with Jeff Tonique, and Jeff is the owner of the Huron Mountain Outfitters. And Jeff, you've got these four-wheelers over here, and you do a lot of different type of guiding up here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you do?
Well, we do a 4.5-hour waterfall mountaintop guided tour, and then we guide for any type of hunting and fishing in the area. And these four-wheelers really come in handy. That's where we're going to be riding today, and to get into some of the areas that are not easily accessible, either on foot or in jeeps. So we'll be. It's kind of windy today, and we'll be going up in the mountains on these a little later on, and so the wind will kind of help us not have so many mosquitoes around.
Okay, we're going to be visiting a guy you know down here that
Right.
is a photographer up here too.
Yes, Emerson Fleury is his name, and he's one of the foremost moose photographers in the area. He's got some of the most prized shots of moose fighting, you name it. He's got the most unusual shots of moose that you'll ever imagine, and we'll be seeing those in a little bit as well. So,
Okay, so we've got the camera on, we've got a little bit of fishing gear with us, the vehicles are gassed up. What do you say we get on the road and start looking around?
sounds good.
Okay.
The first stop of the day was just minutes away. From the Thunder Bay Inn, the group cycled down the hill to the edge of Lake Independence to another historical structure and one of Big Bay's most enduring landmarks. The Ford Smokestack has towered some 200 feet over the town for over 50 years and can be seen for miles from the hillside surrounding the town. Today, the old Ford lumber mill is a private residence, the home of Emerson Fleury. We caught up with Emerson on the back deck and had a chance to talk with him about his home's history and one of his favorite pastimes.
We moved down to our first stop that Jeff told us about, and we're with Emerson Fleury right now, and Emerson owns the old Ford factory here.
Right.
Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about the factory? Almost looks like it did years ago, except that now we're seeing some improvements made on. What's going on here?
Well, when I bought the property, like I told you, when I had paid for it, we figured we got the building for nothing. You know, the lake frontage was worth more than the building, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in a mobile home down here for about 10 years, and we decided it'd be too costly to tear the building down and haul it away, so we decided to try to utilize it. So we kind of liked the hard, industrial tile on the inside, so we thought we'd try to build a home in the wing. This particular wing is the generator room. The building itself was the powerhouse for the sawmill.
Okay.
And that was built by Ford in the early 40s. The mill operated approximately from 44 to about 49. And when Henry Ford died, they closed down all these little pet projects he had. They were too costly, I suppose, for the family. So the building remained idle until we bought it in 1976.
This is a pretty unique place, and you always see it when you're coming into Big Bay. And of course, the smokestack gives it away from a lot of different locations throughout the county.
Right.
You get up in the hills. But Emerson, the reason we came over here is because you're also a noted moose photographer. Now, how did you get into doing something like that?
Well, I've probably back in the 60s when I was in the service, I started taking pictures. I was stationed up in Iceland for a couple of years, and we used to go to this whaling station, and I used to take a lot of pictures. And then over the years, I got away from it, and then I'd say about 15 years ago, we got back into it pretty heavy in, and I used to be a hunter, and I enjoyed it was stalking these moose to get pictures after they introduced them. But we pursue just about any game. We go out, don't really care what we see and take pictures.
You seem to have pretty good luck finding the moose, probably more so than a lot of people.
We spend a lot of time.
That's what I was going to ask
Yeah,
you. Just
yeah.
you must have to go.
Yes.
Do you have certain spots then too that produce them better than others, or are you still just most of the time just looking?
Well, I'd say they're in the AAA area, in Baraga County, along the Champion, Huron Bay, and Pashiki. We see them. We kind of look for tracks and then track them.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, we do.
You've got some really unique pictures, two of them, doing a lot of different things. What are your feelings? What was probably the picture that was most unique for you?
I think it was the one I took in December of the bull peeking around the tree. It just, I don't know, there was just something about it that almost made me feel that he didn't think I was really there, you know what I mean? And he was wanting to see what the commotion was. I would say perhaps that was my favorite.
Any of your photographs, do you have them in any stores that are for sale or anything like that people could actually see?
Right now I have them in the corner store in Big Bay. There's some of them on display in the Lumberjack bar.
Okay.
And then there's also some in the North Shore Treasures. They have some.
Okay, so I'd like to tell everybody, when you're up here, watch for the photographs that Emerson has taken of these moose. They're fantastic to look at. And Emerson, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
As the guys left Emerson's house and his wonderful photographs, we vowed to return and get more photos for your enjoyment in the future. We might even join Emerson on a photographic safari this fall. But the here and now beckoned, and the four-wheelers were soon navigating through the woods and along the shoreline, heading east around Lake Independence toward the Iron River and its mouth on Lake Superior. The story behind the name of Lake Independence follows two sides. The first is that it was given that name by the first state survey crew that discovered it on the 4th of July. Another says that the same survey crew thought the lake's outline resembled the steamship SS Independence. Take your pick, or you could call it by its original Chippewa name, Sosawagami, or Yellow Dog Lake. As you try to decide, we'll join Tom and Jeff at the next stop.
Well, we worked our way from Emerson's, and we've come down some back roads, and it seems that the further we got down, the narrower they got,
Right.
until we've come upon a beautiful beach area. Why don't you tell us, where we've come to? And
Well, right now we're on Iron River Bay on Lake Superior. The next bay over is Big Bay, and pretty secluded beach. There's not any cabins along this stretch down through here, and there's just one over there. And it's kind of a neat spot. The Iron River dumps out into this bay, and from Lake Independence, and it's the outlet of Lake Independence.
Now, is this one of the spots then that you generally bring people on tours?
Sometimes I do. Primarily we do mountaintops and waterfalls. So once in a while when I get older people, this is a nice spot to bring them. We generally see eagles down through here. We saw two on the way in, or I did rather, but...
Just a quick shot of them flying over them.
Right, yeah. This is a very nice spot, and that river is a great brook trout fishing, and in the spring you get the run of salmon up it, and the walleye also go up there in the springtime.
Doesn't look like probably too many people make it out here, huh?
Not very many, no, it's pretty secluded. It's a good little ways from Big Bay, and where we are, it's kind of hard walking the beach, so people don't come down here too often.
Okay, now you mentioned too that we've got an eagle nest nearby.
Yes, we do, right here in the tree. I don't know if there's any young in it right now, and I don't have my binoculars, but we generally see them in here. Their little heads popping up, and the mother and father aren't very far away usually.
Can we walk in a little bit closer and maybe take a
Sure.
closer look at it?
Sure.
All right, let's take a walk.
It was just a short walk down the beach to the edge of the woods where the nest could be seen. From our vantage point, we could see no activity. The nest was not as big as others we've seen on our travels, and as we've learned on past programs, eagles will add on to the same nest year after year, sometimes creating homes weighing a ton or more. The gang once again mounted the four-wheelers for a trip farther down the shore. Of course, with an expert guide like Jeff, the group had to take the scenic route. Heading back inland for a ways, Jeff took us down a trail to allow us to get some shots of the Iron River and the small ponds available to those who wish to come searching. Marquette County is blessed with literally hundreds of lakes, rivers, streams, and marshes. This part of the county seems no different. Our ride eventually took us to the north a few miles and around Lighthouse Point. Lighthouse Point also forms the eastern border of the Big Bay, for which the town is named. We stopped here for a few minutes and charted our next destination.
Jeff, we've managed to get in a little bit of fishing along the way, and now we've come down some more roads and some more trails, and you got us out to, I guess it would be Big Bay,
Right.
correct?
This is Big Bay right here. Squaw Beach down there. Burns' Landing over there, and you can see the smokestack at my cousin's home over there. The mill, the old Ford's Mill.
Yep.
And those are the Huron Mountains, highest mountain range in the state of Michigan. And we were just talking about fishing. It's good, good coaster fishing all along the shoreline, the rocky shoreline here. And you catch some pretty good sized coasters at times.
Doesn't look like you're going to have a lot of competition out here today.
No, none at all. No.
Looks like a great day. We got a great view of the mountains in the background too. This is a fairly clear day again. We've just had some fabulous weather up here, and it's I imagine it's great for these kind of tours.
Oh, it is, definitely.
What do we do from here? There's a nice beach over there too, isn't there?
Yeah, all along there.
And then it gets in rocky down here. Where do we
Right.
go from here then?
Well, I don't know. I was thinking Black Rock Point on the far side of the lake here. We'd go all the way around and we'd end up on that point over there.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Lighthouse Point was also a convenient spot to add a fellow explorer. A good friend of Jeff's joined the team here for our trip to Black Rock Point. It had been a long ride up to this point, so we decided a walk along the shore was a good idea. We've noticed a softer side, a thoughtful and artistic side to many of the most dedicated outdoorsmen and women we've met up here. Jeff is no exception. He often recites appropriate poetry to his guests on his outfitting tours.
Peaceful Valley, it goes like this. I know a peaceful valley where no one goes but I. It's in the Huron Mountains, beneath the bluest sky. Winds whisper to me softly as they blow through tall red pines. Feel as though I'm all alone, yet never do I mind. I listen to the calling bird. I watch the eagle soar. To me it's heaven here on earth. Why would one want for more?
Black Rock Point is a highly visible location as its bluffs rise easily 100 feet up from Lake Superior's shore. The point can be seen from the marina and park in the town of Big Bay. Even from our midway point at the overlook, the four-wheelers had their work cut out for them as we drove up and up and up to the top of the cliffs.
Well, Jeff, those ATVs sure did come in handy getting back to this spot. We're standing on the edge of a cliff right now that's probably at least 100 foot straight down. What is this spot called?
Well, this is called Black Rock Point on Lake Superior. It's a point right across from the Lighthouse Point where we were just a little while ago. And you can see Big Bay over there. The sandstone cliffs here are some of the oldest form of rock known to man. It's called Jacobsville sandstone. And they're quite high. Keep wearing away, but they'll be here for a long time. We're sort of on a real peninsula here. And we're going to go down below now in a few minutes. And real nice down there.
Oh, what's the path like to get us down there?
Pretty steep, pretty pretty tough.
Not quite as bad as some of the cliffs I'm looking at along here.
Almost.
Almost?
Yeah, almost.
Well, great. I hope you have fun getting down there, Denny. We'll meet you there.
Yeah.
The base of the cliffs was a rough contour of large rocks. One could see the glacier's handiwork in the shoreline with the numerous stair-step formations and ragged and scratchy markings in the stone. Jeff had promised some good fishing off the jagged rocks, so, needless to say, it didn't take too long to get the lines flying into the cold lake. To the south, we could still make out the chimney of Emerson Fleury's home, and we knew that we'd have to be heading back that way to the village of Big Bay long before we wanted to abandon this beautiful stretch of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Now, it could be that our desire to stay also had something to do with the fact that we all knew that climbing back up this cliff had to be harder than coming down. Nonetheless, it had to be done, and Jeff led us back up the steep and twisting path. Well, it had been a great day in and around Big Bay, and normally that would have been it. But Denny and Tom did something that we enjoy doing every once in a while. One of those things we encourage you to do when you come to the Upper Peninsula. We just went exploring on our own. We've mentioned the Huron Mountain Club a few times on the show today. Well, we headed north out of Big Bay up the Huron Mountain Road. And as we drove by a little pond, you won't guess what we saw.
Next time you travel to Big Bay, not far to the west, is the AuSable Point Lighthouse. A trip well worth your time. Secluded in nature, it nonetheless is well worth the effort to visit. Starting at the Hurricane River Campground, we hiked the 1.5 mile service trail to the lighthouse and other buildings. We came upon something most extraordinary. Protruding from beneath the wet sand and gravel were the remains of several shipwrecks of an age long ago. Their wooden hulls lie partially submerged in only inches of cold Lake Superior water, a final resting place. We imagined that these once proud ships stood tall with their masts pointing defiantly against an angry Lake Superior sky, and rightly so, as these ships were the finest of their day. But now, lying broken in the sand, we couldn't help but think that the timbers that made up their hulls and masts were once possibly pine, spruce, and oak from these very shores. Even the spikes and straps that still hold together what remains could have been mined from the Iron Ranges only miles to the west. We continued down the beach, leaving these wooden skeletons at the mercy of the relentless pounding surf.
An 87-foot brick tower was built on a rise, placing the light about 150 feet above Lake Superior's surface. The third-order Fresnel lens displayed a fixed white light. The attached two-story brick keeper's dwelling was large, but those who lived in it knew theirs was one of the most remote mainland light stations in America.
Here, standing at the edge of Lake Superior, the light keeps its lonesome vigil for passing ships.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show on Big Bay. We had a great time up there doing it. If you'd like more information, you can go to our website at greatgetaways.tv. Don't forget to check us out at Facebook. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.